Hi, I'm Tony DeLacy, and in this video I'd like to talk about the question, should you ever get back with your ex? And the answer is no. Thank you. Okay, that's not all of the video. There's a lot more to it. But the question still stands. Should you ever get back with an ex? Now, there are quite a few reasons why we consider this to be a valid option in our lives, should the option be presented, or should we engage in that desire that we will ultimately always have when it comes to a breakup. So let's think about the question itself, and then let's try and dive into things a bit more specifically. Things a bit more specific. Of course, I must stress the caveat of I can't help you, of course, in more specifically towards your own situation, but I can give you a couple of general things to think about and to consider when you're thinking about this, because there's a reason that you're thinking about this. But let's think about the question itself first. Why what should I ever get back with my ex? Should I ever return to someone? Now, of course, it's a different question when it comes to, were you the one who broke up with the person, or did they break up with you? But let's think about it. Usually this is something that you'll think about, that if you're the one who broke up with them. But it's still relevant whether you're the one who got broken up with. But in a sense, the question is, if you strip it down to its bare parts, is, should I go back? Should I go backwards? Should I return to my past in order to give it another go? In order to add some continuity to something which, for what you know, had ended? Whether it is possible to keep it going. And that's the question. Should I go backwards in order to go forwards? Already, if you strip it down, that seems odd. Seems like a counterproductive way of leading your life. So, the question, should I get back with my ex, is, should I go back into my past, draw something out, and take it with me? Taking something back from your past, putting it back into the present in order to push forward in the future. Honestly, you might think, well, actually, Tony, that makes a bit of sense. Sometimes we want to take things from our past, things that have happened, and if we deem that it is right, we can bring them up to our present. In what other scenario would you do that in your life? Going back to a job that you liked? See, when it comes to relationships, or trying to bring back old relationships, that's a very different scenario to almost every other, really. Because it's so fundamental. When it comes to work, you might want to go back to your old job because maybe it pays better. There are loads of other different things that stipulate why you would go back to something professionally. But when it comes to a person, it's a very much more straightforward concept, because you're dealing with someone rather than an industry. So, and anyway, if you're going back to a job, you're essentially approaching it in a different way, because that's what a job does. And the scenario changes when it comes to thinking about whether you want to go back to a job. Maybe the manager's changed. Maybe the way they work is very different. When it comes to a human, the continuity stays the same. So the question, if you strip down to it, is: do I take something back, very fundamental, very, very much still the same person, and bring them back to life, almost? Well, then let's find out why you're asking this. See, after a breakup, we ask all these questions. For example, could there be anything that I could have done to stop this from happening? Now, of course, that is what you should do, and I've made videos saying that that's what you should do. You should ask, what are the things that you should have looked out for? But there's two things that you might do with that information once you get it. You can be positive. You can say, okay, I know what I should have done, should have looked out for, and I'm going to better myself for the experience and move on with my life. That is the responsible thing to do. Because you take the responsibility for what happened, your side of it, even if you were not at fault, so to speak. You take the responsibility for the situation, for the breakup, for the things leading up to the breakup, your reaction, and you say, okay, with that, I'm going to move forward to the next person. Make sure I don't make those mistakes. And I can live a positive life, improving as I go along. Or option 2, with the evidence you got of what I could have done, you go, well, let's go back and do that then. With the same person. That's not taking responsibility. It isn't. What you're doing with that information is then you've gained the keys for your individualism, for your integrity, for building you up as a person, and you give it back to the person who hurt you, or caused such pain that caused you to end it, or who gave you such terrible pain. All of that work that you've done to show what you could have done, you're just going to give it back. You've taken the individualism and you've thrown it back. That is what you do when you try and go back to the past. It's a comfort zone. Of course it is. It's called regression. At no point in any other part of our lives is regression a good thing. Nothing. So when you decide, these are all the things that I could have done, so if I go back to them, I'll just do that. It's illogical. What happened, happened. You learnt the lessons. So why go back? The reason is, you might have figured this out. You can change who you are as a person, change how you see people in the world. But that person won't have done it. Or if you think maybe they have, well, so? You too acted in a certain way, and then there was a division, and you've changed yourself as a result. They've changed themselves maybe as a result. So what makes you think that the results of you two changing is going to make yourselves compatible again? One of the things that kept you two together was because of your perfections and your imperfections. And for one reason or another, it led to a breakup. So you think going back with the same person will make it okay? You will have changed, and so will they, maybe. It's illogical. You think that you can essentially go back the way you came? No. If you go back with an ex, you start from the beginning. You do the whole dating process again. But it's all different. The difference between that and actually dating someone new is you will have in your mind, it will never escape you. Because if you go back, you are not learning the lesson. The lesson is that you two, when you were together, you were capable of creating this pain, this division, something so painful that'll always be in your head because you will not have learnt the lesson. The lesson is, yes, there were things that you could have done. Yes, there were things that they could have done. But that person will always remain a threat. That capability to cause so much pain, so much division, the rejection will always be there. Your brain will not let you forget it. It never will. So, and the reason it won't let you forget it is because it is a defense mechanism. It's saying, why are you hanging around someone who has the potential to hurt you again? And you know how bad that feels. It's like being, wandering into a lion's den, having part of your arm ripped off, going, well, next time I'll do something different with the lion, and going back in. No. You have the evidence. So, if you go back, that'll always be in your head. Because you're not going to learn it. So you go back, you think maybe they've changed. You might find out, and this might be a moot point, but you might find out that how you are as a person has changed so much, and what you're looking out for, your greater sense of individualism will kick in, and you'll find that they are not compatible with that. Or maybe you two have changed, and then even trying to get back together doesn't seem possible. Very much. That is generally what happens. So if that's the case, then you'll learn the hard way, but the result is going to be very much the same. You will have to move on. Or you go back. You try again. Knowing full well what happened in the past, because you cannot wipe that away. Even if it was something that you can say, oh no, look, we could have avoided that. Something is so fundamental broke it up in the first place. You don't break up with someone, or someone doesn't break up with you for something so trivial. It's fundamental. It's basically them or you or whatever, either of you saying, you as a person are someone I cannot spend the rest of my life with. And that's to them, or to you. It's individual to you. So, it's illogical to stay with them. Knowing full well that that there was a capability, there still is a capability of that happening again. Because even if you think you've changed, or they've changed, or whatever, or both of you have, going back, the temptation to regress to what it was, to what it had been in the past, will be so great that the things that you've learnt, you'll forget. Because when you return to an ex, you return to that lifestyle. You always will. And that lifestyle ended up in a breakup. And it's going to be painful again. I know. It seems like the better option, but if anything, it might be the easier option. Doesn't mean it's better. If anything, it'll be worse. Because you might regress. The only reason that you'll go back to someone who hurt you or whatever, there was a breakup anyway, the only reason you'll go back with them is perhaps because you feel that's what you're worth. You're worth being treated just like that. Treated similar. Maybe that's the best you can get. Or you can treat yourself like you matter and say, do you know what? I deserve better. I broke up with them for that reason, such a fundamental reason, that I wanted something better in my life. I wanted to live a better life, and that was not helping. Or they broke up with you. Going back to someone who broke up with you is one of the most illogical things in the world. You're worth so much better than that. You're worth so much better. And how do I know? Because in the end of the day, after a breakup, after the end of a relationship, your perception of both you and that person will have irrevocably changed. Let's take you back momentarily. I know this might hurt. Let's take you back to that breakup. To that day that they broke up with you. Think about yourself beforehand and after. Think about the world, the space you were in beforehand. Because we all live in space and time. Think about the space you were in beforehand. Think about what you had thought of them beforehand. Then think about that space that you occupied afterwards. What you perceived afterwards. What you perceived of them afterwards. Your whole world changed. Your perception structures changed completely. This person that you thought was incapable of breaking up with you, or vice versa, it happened. So think of those two spaces that you occupied in one day. Everything changed then. It cannot change back. It never happens. If you go back to an ex, you try and push yourself back into that space and time. But why would you do that, knowing what happened when you went from one to the other? That's the reality of the situation. Your perception of them is forever changed because you went through that experience. And you'll never forget it. And why run the risk of that happening again with the same person? Now you might say to me, but it might happen with another person. Well, for one, it's much less likely. And two, if you have learnt the lessons of that breakup, of that relationship, truly have learnt the lessons, you will stop any potential pain, very similar to the last time, from ever happening again. You will know what to look out for in the next person. You won't make the mistakes you made last time. You'll become braver. You'll be able to take bigger risks. You'll know how much more you're worth, how much more powerful you are. So you'll look for something where you know it'll be better for your life. And you'll perceive things in a more honest light. You know you did not perceive your ex in an honest light. That is a fact. because you broke up with them, because the space and time that you occupy before and after changed, is different. And with the change in those two different spaces, you change your perception of everything. The world, you, the person. You cannot go back. You really cannot. Your perception of you has forever changed. You know you have to do something about it, so that you never have to go through what you went through again. That's something you can control. Now, your ex might have said, I've changed. One, how do you know? And two, so what? You don't go back. They might perceive things differently or whatever like that, but you'll perceive them very much in the same light as what they did to you, or what happened. I know the easier thing to do is to go back, because you'll feel you'll have forged so much. But the one thing you will never get back is that trust. That trust of they'll never do this to me, or I'll never get back into that situation again. You will never get that back, even if they've changed or whatever. And if you don't have trust, if you think, well, it might happen again, so what? Well, one, that's not love. And two, how can you go look at your future thinking that that might be the case? See, before the breakup, there was order in your life. And afterwards, there was chaos. And what the brain tries to do is it tries to make order out of the chaos. That's the sort of yin and yang thing. The white is the order and the black is the chaos. And neither can exist without the other. That's what the dots are there for. So you try to make order out of the chaos. You don't go back in to the chaos and try to reorder it in the way that it was. You build a new order out of the chaos that was given to you. And you don't go back. You go forward. Because you're worth that much. Because you deserve that much. It is mentally, I cannot understand why people would go back to an ex. It's illogical. Because you know, if someone is capable of that, how do you perceive them? You'll perceive them so much more differently. And I'd rather not say the old adage, there's better people out there, because you probably have heard of it, and it'll probably roll your eyes, but it is technically true, and you'll know what to look out for. You know, pick up your damn responsibility for the things that have happened to you. And bear it. Taking responsibility isn't going backwards, it's going forwards. Take responsibility for what happened. And move on from it. Use it to make your future better. Increase your potential. You know, unless you want to be a nihilist and say, well, nothing the hell matters, then yeah, sure, go back. Because nothing matters. You'll just feel empty inside, and you'll wake up with the existential question of what the hell am I doing? Or you can go forward. Everything you do matters. Everything that's happened to you matters. Of course it does. Because it makes us who we are. And it shapes our future. So shape your future from your past. Don't go back into it, because you'll lose yourself in it. And you'll always be a shadow of what you could become. You are powerful, fantastic. Your potential is incredible. And the thing is, you don't know just how much you could get, just how successful you can be in life. In a relationship, completely. If you believed in yourself, if you understood just what you could learn could make such a difference in the future. I hope everything that I've said can help convince you that in order to make your future better, you learn from the past. You don't try and envelop yourself back into it. Because you're worth more than that. Because the true lessons are in the past, so you can make your future better. Your future better. So be responsible for, it wasn't a mistake, it was a lesson. No lessons are a mistake. It's all about making sense of what happened to us so we can make the future better. So we can take better opportunities once they arrive. How can you get that with an ex? Moving on is tough. But the way to move on is to take responsibility for the things that happened to you. Learn from it. Ask yourself the questions. One of the most important questions is, am I making my life better with everything I do? Am I working towards the betterment of my life? If the answer is yes, you'll never go back to your ex. Because you know that wouldn't make your life better. It's obvious. Obvious to me, obviously, but to you, I'm appealing to you. You want to make your life better. So don't surround yourself with people that can make you feel lonely. That can make you feel low. That can make you think that is possible again. You've only got one life. So make it count. Make every day count. So you do things for the betterment of tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. Don't think, oh, future me can handle that, can handle him or herself. Your future you is you. And you want to be with someone who you can trust. Who you've sussed out. Who you've put through the ringer of what you've learnt in the past, so you can put it in the future, so you know you'll never get hurt like that again, or you will never be put in that situation again. That's bettering your life. So should you get back with your ex? The answer is unequivocal. Even if it was, you might think it was a misunderstanding. Of course it wasn't. Everything happens for a reason. Saying it was a misunderstanding is like saying there's an excuse. It's not an excuse, it's a reason. A reason you have to attribute value and worth to. And be responsible for it. Misunderstanding says, I'm not responsible. But everything you do matters. The answer to that question, should I get back with my ex? The answer is no. For your sake, right now, the sake of your sense of being, the sake of your idea of yourself in your life, and for the sake of your future, move on. No matter how much it hurts. And make your life better in the future and the present, not the past. Thank you.